Do you think we could take all this water that we're collecting in the dehumidifiers and turn that into hydrogen?
The demand for energy is going through the roof.
Out of the 300 plus homes in my neighborhood, every single one of them flooded except for a row of 10 of us.
Hundreds of people still need to be rescued.
An ocean of misery and a sea of sadness.
Every hour I'd have to go empty the tanks,
Yeah.
right? And that's a lot of water. And we just had this epiphany. I was like,
Rick Harlow is the founder and CEO of NovaSpark Energy, a company building mobile hydrogen systems that generate fuel, power, and water directly from the air anywhere in the world. He leads the development of on-demand, off-grid energy solutions that reduce reliance on traditional fuel supply chains.
I'm a Marine in the Pacific on an island, and I can make my own hydrogen.
that's right. Not only that, but it actually overproduces water for drinking. They were able to turn the generator off. They're able to go dark or quiet. It's quiet, right? We
Yeah.
still have power. And there's a fourth thing that this machine does that we never really talk about, but I'll show you one of
Okay,
the
yeah.
pictures here. They had this machine out there.
Well, welcome on, Rick. So your background, what is it?
I actually started out selling newspaper subscriptions door to door at 13, and I worked for the Houston Post newspaper till I was 21.
Nice.
A friend of mine said, "Hey, I'm getting a job at this company called GT Wireless. They need people like us to go out and sell, right?
Yeah.
Hustlers." And back then, nobody had a cell phone. We were literally going door to door, hanging these door hangers on something that was called GTE Telego. And
Yeah.
basically what it was a NEC cell phone that looked like a big brick. And what it was is they had this little box that you could plug into your house with a splitter in your phone jack. And when you got within range of your house, it would pick up your phone calls from the house, and you could take your home phone calls
Yeah.
like it was a home phone. But when you left the zone, you would pay 23 cents a minute. And when you went outside of the zone, you would pay like 60 cents a minute.
Oh, yeah?
Of course, before that, if you had a cell phone, had that big, you weren't even born then, probably.
I'm 86. So was this the 90s?
Yeah, but even when I was a kid, nobody had a cell phone, and
Yeah.
anyway.
Well,
so
you're still paying for minutes back then. Remember that?
oh yeah,
Yeah, that's funny.
you didn't have unlimited anything, right?
Did you watch that BlackBerry movie?
Oh, yeah.
Did you see that movie?
Yeah.
Yeah. They were doing minutes, and then they came up with a plan for like all unlimited or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, I did that for quite some time, about a year or so, and they actually decided to get rid of that program because the chipsets in the phones kept failing, and the companies or the customers would get billed all per minute for all those phone calls. It was the first time I ever had a preacher cuss me out because his phone calls it's so expensive. But anyway, they decided to shut down that division of the company, and they called everybody up to the office, and I don't know how many there was of us, and either the people that were staying on went to the right, or the ones that were getting fired went to the left. Of course, the top salespeople went to the right, and we got switched over to GT Wireless proper, which today, so GTE was acquired by, I think it was Bell Atlantic, and that's what Verizon is today.
Okay.
So anyway, I was hired into the retail side. I was at a store every day selling cell phones. I did that for maybe 6 months, and there was this discreet door on in the store that said do not enter or whatever, and back there were the business salespeople.
Yeah.
And I lived south of Houston at the time, a little area called Clear Lake, and that's where there's the water's nasty down there, but that's where the yachting clubs and all
Yeah.
that stuff is, right? So anyway, about after 6 months I was there, I built a rapport with the sales manager, and I did very well in the retail store. And I applied for a job to get into B2B, business
Yeah.
sales. And he hired me.
More fun than store sales.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
So he hired me, and right around that time was the beginning of what you would now call the IoT revolution,
Yeah.
right? Before that, it was called machine to machine, and before that, were called remote telemetry, right? So back in those days, nothing was connected.
Yeah.
Today you have remote patient monitoring, all kinds of telematics applications, smart building, and all that now has AI machine learning integrated into it, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, from there, I started calling on businesses, and I was going in to get them to buy cellular for their fleets or their workers, whoever it may be. But we were being trained on saying, hey, do you have anything that you'd like to have monitored or digitized, right?
Yep.
So back in those days, we were starting to do the earliest forms of digital transformation for taking something that was on a clipboard and digitizing it, where you could use your cell phone and
Yeah. Just
capture the
update
data,
it.
right?
Yep.
It was extremely basic, right?
Yeah.
Even back in those days, I remember meeting with the founder of Apache Oil and Gas, which, you know, they're a household name in Houston.
Yeah.
But he wanted to know, hey, son, any way you could help me tell me if that pump's broken or not? These pump jacks, they look like horses that go up and
Yep.
down, you know?
So we're like monitoring on that.
Yeah. And so we figured out how we could capture that horse going up and down. And what it is has these pump rods, and we have a pneumatic sensor we put in there. It's just open and close, real
Yep.
simple. And it was able to capture that digital signal and send it over the network. And it told them, hey, your pump jack is screwed up. And what it saved them is they were paying somebody to specifically drive around and check the pump jacks,
Yeah.
because, you know, it's pumping oil out of the gas. I'm sorry, out of the ground. And it was, you know, that's how they make the money, right?
Yep.
So anyway, back then we were able to help eliminate the guys who had to go around and drive 2 or 3 hours in one direction to just go to that one specific pump
And
check,
just check.
right? Yeah. So now there's what you call a digital oil field, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, so I did that for quite a long time, actually. Kind of, you know, grew up in telecom, and ended up leaving Verizon, went to Sprint, and then I eventually T-Mobile acquired
So then what
Sprint.
happened? What got you into entrepreneurship then?
Okay, so while I was in telecom, I was, you know, we had a lot of partners, and Microsoft and a bunch of others, Rockwell Automation, just a bunch of different partners we worked with over the years, and I was actually working with the earliest forms of AI machine learning, and in our reality, it's really just machine learning,
Yep.
right? You know, you take historical data, you capture it, you build some algorithms, and
Yeah.
it starts learning, right? So there was a little Indian-based company that had launched here in the U.S. called Flutura. And mind you, all these years, I saw all of these startup companies that had these brand new devices and ways of capturing data and monetizing
Yeah.
it that came through our network. In fact, my group that I was in, that I had grown into and got promoted into, basically, that group is the group that all those companies had to come through
Yeah.
in order to make sure that their device didn't put any noise in our network. Once we figured out that it worked and we could monetize it, we would then put that in our catalog of solutions, and our salespeople would go out and sell it to the market, right? So we took a little cut off the top of that, right? So anyway, through all of that, I was introduced to this company called Flutura. The earliest forms of machine learning and building algorithms and what we call AI today, right? So we were actually going around educating the market. So I took the job.
Yep.
Okay, that was my point.
So you joined that.
And you have to forgive me. I'll get
I like it. No,
sideways.
no.
and shit,
The
you know?
guest wants to know.
Yeah, anyway.
This is a part of it. That's how we do it here.
It's all good. So anyway, we were out literally educating the market, you know, executives and companies before they had any kind of budgets, any kind of development teams, anybody doing anything related to AI. You know, we'd sit down, okay, well, let me tell you why this is important to your business, right? So that company, I was the head of the Americas for about 3.5 years, and they eventually went on to get acquired by Accenture. So we did very well there. And so that was my first startup company.
Yeah.
Outside of working the big, you know.
Was it more fun?
Yeah. It was a blast.
Yeah. It's fun. Yeah.
It was pretty cool, actually.
Once you get bit by the bug, you know, then you can't go back.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah. But, you know, along the way, I actually, you know, working with all these startup companies, I saw their passion and grit, and,
Yeah.
you know, it takes grit, right?
It's tough. It's tough. Yeah. Okay. So then NovaSpark.
All right. So everything that I've done has led up to NovaSpark, right? So anyway, I ended up leaving Flutura. This investor came to me and said, hey, we're not going to invest in the Flutura, but there's this US-based company that's focused on the military. We're wanting to see if you'd be interested in working with us. What they're in the business of doing is taking legacy Microsoft Access databases and modernizing them for the military.
Okay.
And at that time,
That's good.
yeah. Do you even know what Access
Yeah,
is?
of course.
Okay.
Yeah.
A lot of people are like, do you?
We
Anybody
used
even
it
use that?
I worked at Naval Reactors. We used it.
Yeah.
At the Nuclear Navy.
Yeah, no
we
doubt.
used it, yeah.
You know, there's still Microsoft Access databases sitting on desktops today.
Oh yeah, for
you know?
sure.
And basically, the whole point there is that they were not just monitoring the Access databases. What they had is they had this. They could send a command out to. They would tell everybody, leave your laptops, your computers on. At the end of the day, they would send a command out through the network, and it was able to identify which desktops had what applications on them, and then they could decode them, break them down to object level, and then extract them out, and then we would take that and put it into the cloud. Right. So anyway, I did that for a little bit before COVID, all the way through COVID. You know, I got my little certificate saying I could travel.
Yeah, I remember too. Traveling during COVID was crazy.
Oh,
the airports were empty. It was wild. There was like a couple months there where you could go to the airport and be like the only one in there.
Oh yeah,
it was cool.
I know, man. I know.
It's honestly kind of a great time.
Yeah. So anyway, you know, I'm a product of living in the South.
Yeah.
Okay. And what I mean by that is that, you know, we get hit by hurricanes year after year after year.
Yeah.
Right?
I grew up in a high school in Biloxi. So Katrina hit when I was living there.
Okay.
So I know it's crazy. Yeah. My parents, after the Katrina hit, were like, we're fucking getting out of here. And they moved up north. They were like,
I don't blame them, man.
The Katrina actually took I don't know if you know the casinos in Mississippi. They're like on barges. They were on barges in the water. So the hurricane lifted up over the highway. And the casino ended up on the other side of the highway.
No shit.
Yeah, it was wild.
Wow.
So they changed the law to like put them on land now.
Yeah.
Because it's so stupid. Just be like, oh, it's not legal unless it's on the water.
Yeah.
Like it's just so classic government.
Yeah. Well, there's still, I think, at least one in Lake Charles, Louisiana, that's still on the water.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I lived in the Beau Rivage, and when I first moved to Mississippi, I lived there for like a couple of weeks when my dad was getting a house for us. So I was living in the casino.
I was born in Amory, Mississippi. Not that you care, but I'm a product of the South, right? So for decades now, we get hit by hurricanes.
Yeah.
In fact, I lived at the time. I lived on what was called what is called Cedar Bayou, east of Houston.
Yeah.
And that was the hardest hit area of Houston during Hurricane Harvey. Out of the 300 plus homes in my neighborhood, every single one of them flooded except for a row of 10 of us.
Yeah, that hurricane really wrecked Houston.
Yeah,
that was wild. So that inspired making energy more reliable?
Well, here's the epiphany, right? So, you know, after a storm, you have to run dehumidifiers, you know, at least who can... You
need to.
Who can afford them, right? A lot of people can't.
Yeah.
Anyway, the point is that... at one point, we were running like 4 different dehumidifiers in our house, and our humidity level in the house was like north of 80-90%, right? I mean, it was saturated, right? It was however many days of rain it was, right? And I had this epiphany. I was like, man, that's a lot of water. Every hour, I'd have to go empty the tanks, right? And I grew up as a product of the energy industry, right? You know, all these different technologies, and we just had this epiphany. I was like, and actually, and the other point I was going to make is that during that time, the last administration had all these hydrogen hub funds, $8 billion for the hydrogen hub fund, $5 billion for the National Electric Vehicle Infrastructure Fund, all that kind of stuff, right? And I would connect the dots. I was like, "Hey, Tom," I called my CTO, right, retired Army Colonel. I said, "Hey, do you think we could take all this water that we're collecting in the dehumidifiers and turn that into hydrogen?" And we'd already looked at, you know, understood that where the drone market was going. And it only, with Lockheed Martin, they named us as their #1 innovation partner 24.
Sweet.
And,
so what are you doing? It's like you're making hydrogen?
Yeah. So, what we do is we take that water from the air or any source. We don't care where it comes from. It's even designed to where you could take water and pour in it from a stream or a lake. It'll extract the solids and then run it through another, I think it's 4 stages filtration system when you're talking that kind of water, and before we turn it into hydrogen. But the point I was making is that we're making hydrogen for a multitude of uses. Of course, there's a new administration in town, right? And the subsidies went away for companies like Daimler North America, Hyundai, Toyota. You know, even Toyota, I don't know if they've settled the lawsuit, but They make hydrogen power cars, passenger vehicles, right? They sold over 100 of them in Northern California, and they were going through a lawsuit, or maybe still are, but the customers were buying the cars and they started suing the company, and it wasn't because of the performance or the safety. It's because there's nowhere to fuel up at.
Yeah.
Okay. And so anyway, we make fuel for high altitude balloons.
So when you make the hydrogen, is it gas? Like
it's gaseous. Yeah.
Gaseous. So you're like extracting gas hydrogen.
Well, what we're doing is we capture that water.
Yep.
Okay. And then that water, we're running that through an electrolysis process.
Yep.
Okay. It splits the hydrogen away from the oxygen. Okay. In this case, we're actually releasing the oxygen and capturing the hydrogen. Okay.
Yeah.
And that hydrogen is stored in a gas form. Okay. Gaseous.
And then the way you do that, did you design that system?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
Okay. So you design that.
Me and one of my co-founders are on the patent.
And so you make the gas, and then what do you do with it?
Well, that gas then can either be used for two things. You could either run it through a fuel cell to make even more power, or you could dispense it. And when I talk about dispensing, if you've ever looked at on Google Images or whatever, you could see that it's this wand, like you pull up and fill up.
What do we got? You putting it up? Like this thing? Can you huff it? What else do you do with it? That's what I would do with it.
I haven't tried that one yet.
Huff it?
No.
When I was a kid, I was dumb. I was doing we were huffing the air duster.
Yeah.
Air duster.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, where I was going with that is that you dispense the fuel, right?
Yeah.
So leading up to Christmas, they were using our machine in 29 Palms to make fuel for high altitude balloons. You remember a couple of years ago, we shut down the Chinese spy balloons?
Yeah, we shot like a missile at it.
Yeah.
Biden fucked it up.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, we have a bunch of those in our arsenal as well.
Okay,
right?
cool.
So, and then for long range drones.
So you could be making weapons then, basically, or helping, because like the balloons are weapons, right?
They're
maybe.
Well, and there's a few different ways you could do that,
Yeah.
right? There's a company here right out of Austin that has material that you can mix with something else, and it'll burn through a tank, right?
Oh, cool. Yeah.
But you need hydrogen as part of that formula, right?
Yeah.
But anyway, there's some things that you can do with hydrogen that are pretty novel. But as far as fueling goes, they've used our machine for making fuel for high altitude balloons. We were out in the field with Lockheed in Oahu making fuel for their Stalker drone. Now that Stalker drone can go, depending on the wind speed, the wind direction, the payload.
Soccer drone? Like playing soccer?
Stalker.
Oh, Stalker.
Yeah.
Okay, I was
Sorry.
like, soccer? We're playing soccer?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Stalker drone. So, okay, and do you make the fuel cells too? Like hydrogen powered fuel cells? Or?
No, we partner up with a couple different companies. In fact, we're going out next week and meeting with Caterpillar.
So you're like the raw material, basically.
Yeah.
You're making the actual like hydrogen, and then
That's right.
you partner with the fuel cell because there's like a UK company too that does hydrogen fuel cells, right?
Intelligent Energy.
Yeah.
They're one of our partners.
Yeah. I did my research.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so that makes sense. So that I get it now. So and then what's like your tie to other defense? Like, are you doing a lot of defense programs now? Like, are you doing like appropriation stuff or like how?
Not yet. We're working on it, brother. So we did win a first contract, or actually our first real contract where they paid us to make something.
Yeah,
was through a challenge that was put out by the Defense Innovation Unit.
Oh, you do a DIU thing?
Yep.
Nice.
We're a capital factory company.
Yep.
And, all that. But
same.
Are you?
Yeah, small check.
Yeah.
They invested a little. Josh Bear and the crew. Yeah.
I know, Joe.
Yeah. We go. I like those guys. They have a nice little facility too to like hang out in. Let's talk about the company side. Like, where are we at? Like in the life cycle of the company. Like how?
Look,
a couple years old now.
We're right at 3 years old. We, like I told you, we came up with an idea. We ended up winning a contract through DIU. The contract was actually directly with the U.S. Army.
Yep.
And then the end user were the U.S. Marines.
Okay, perfect.
So we hit 3 different defense agencies there with that one contract. And then we also won an award through the AFWorks program.
Yep.
Which is the Air Force arm of the innovation. Some with Army, it's not, but
Yeah.
but we love those guys. But we also were put on a contract through them as well.
And for that one, they just want the hydrogen for fuel cells, or
the end game is what can you do with the fuel?
What can you do with
right?
the fuel? Yeah.
So, like as example, there's a quad chart that was put out by the Marines and the DIU, and it basically depicts our multiples of our machines being airdropped on islands. Of course, anybody's keeping up what's happening right now in the Indo-Pacific. No, the average citizen doesn't know what that even means, Indo-Pacific,
Yeah.
right? But between the Hawaii Islands over to China, down to Australia, that's a big focus area for the U.S.
How big is
government.
the machine that they're going to airdrop?
It depends on the smallest machine that we make sits on a 16-foot trailer.
Yeah.
We actually have a new design where it lightens up the top side of the machine by about 800 pounds, which is a lot, right? The ultralight materials, but it does use wind and solar to be able to charge the battery banks, and which makes the hydrogen and all that kind of stuff.
So the idea is like, I'm a Marine in the Pacific on an island, and I can make my own hydrogen.
That's right. Not only that, but it actually overproduces water for drinking.
Oh, cool.
There's so much water in the air.
Yeah.
So
okay, and then you do that, and then they're out there with the hydrogen. Then what do they do?
So in the case of a drone, you looked at the little fueling nozzle, right?
Yep.
So it pops on, it's a secure net connection, and it fills up the tank.
Oh, okay.
So I'll give you an example of what that really means as far as how that works. So you have a fuel cell, like from Intelligent Energy, like you talked about. That's actually inside the cargo bay, okay? And then there's a tank that you fill up with the hydrogen, okay? You're only talking about 200 grams of hydrogen.
Yeah.
Okay. So in the case of the Lockheed drone, every flight that uses 200 grams of hydrogen for, depending on the airspeed direction, all that kind of loitering, drone, whatever, all those variables. I mean, you're talking, anywhere from 24 to 30 hours of flight time on 200 grams of hydrogen.
Yeah.
Okay. At the end of the day,
wait, how many hours?
24 to 30, something like that.
So it can loiter.
Yeah. Just depending on what all those variables, right? But with other drones, these heavy lift drones, well, let me back up real quick. So on the Lockheed drone or any Heaven drones,
the Heaven
Seller, it doesn't sell in any of them. Okay. They only take about 200 grams of hydrogen per flight. Maybe 3 or 4, depending on if it's a heavy lift or whatever, where I was going with that though is that, if you talk about this one specific drone, every kilogram of hydrogen gets you like up to 5 flights, right? So if you've got 4 deployed personnel, and you have UAVs that you're wanting to make fuel for, it does that, right?
Yeah.
It also makes power. So one of the things that we did while we were out in Oahu, the Marines that we were training on the system, they had an 8 kilowatt generator they were running, and it was very loud. I mean, we're in the middle of nowhere, right? We weren't on the base. We're on this field exercise with them, and they were able to turn the generator off, unplug it, and plug their FOB, forward operating base, for their communications. They had a little window unit, AC unit, and all that. And they were able to go dark or quiet, right? And so that was kind of an epiphany for a lot of those soldiers, because they're like, wow, it's quiet now, right? We still have power. We're still making fuel for the drone, and we're also making drinking water.
Yeah. That's pretty sweet.
Yeah. And there's a fourth thing that this machine does that we never really talk about, but I'll show you one of the pictures here. They had this machine out there, JLTV, a Joint Light Tactical Vehicle.
Yeah.
And the left rear tire was low on it. And they were calling over to base to have somebody bring over an air compressor. We're like, well, we could air the tire up for you. And they're like, what do you mean you could air the tire up? So we could step up the pressure of fueling up something. Like for a drone, you're only going to need about 350 bar. So about maybe 5,000 PSI.
Yeah.
If we're talking about stepping it up to 700 bar, it's much higher pressure, right? 10,000 PSI, right? Or we could drop it all the way down to around 30, 35 pounds of air pressure. So our onboard compressors can step that pressure up or down. And we actually had a hose on our machine to air up a tire. And the reason we did is because our own tire was low. And this is a military trailer. You can see in the picture there, right?
Yeah.
And so instead of having, had to take the trailer down or go get an air pressure, we just put a little tap in, and we air up our tire. So the point is that you could actually take that machine and run things like impact wrenches if you need to make repairs on your machine. Now, we're not trying to sell that to the commercial market. There may be some uses there for, like, let's say, mining operations where you, we're talking with Caterpillar right now. I mentioned they're coming out next week.
Yeah.
But they have heavy equipment that runs off of hydrogen. Okay. And their problem is the same as everybody else. Where do you get the fuel from? I always say we're not in the same business as Air Liquide, Air Products, and Linde. They mass produce hydrogen.
Yep.
All this money was going into upgrading the pipelines because you can't just run hydrogen through a regular pipeline because it brittles the pipe.
Yeah.
Right. That hydrogen actually messes up the structural integrity of that pipe. Right. So you have to put a liner in it and all this kind of stuff. Right. So all this money with the hydrogen hub funds were supposed to go towards building off this infrastructure.
Yeah.
Anyway, with all that said, if you ever, driven past a truck going down the highway that has hydrogen in it, it'll have a little, it looks like steam, but basically it's called a boil off. And what it is that as that hydrogen, it's liquefied, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they have to keep it cryogenically cold, right? Very cold temperatures, okay? In order to even transport it, okay? And then, you're manufacturing at a central facility, you're transporting it wherever you need to go. Okay. And then once you get it there, you have to store it. Okay. Now the other way that they transport it is in a gaseous form. And if you've ever also seen one of the trucks going down the highway, they have these cylinders that are like 5 foot tall. They have a little cap on the top.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's gaseous hydrogen that's stored in those. That's like, let's call it room temperature, right? So you could store gaseous hydrogen at ambient temperatures, but with liquid hydrogen, it has to be
cold,
cryogenically cooled down, right? I guess my overarching point there is that we eliminate that entire supply chain.
Yeah, no, it looks like you have a machine that does it on site.
That's right.
And so, well, where do you make these?
Well, so you ask us where we are incorporated. We're incorporated in Texas, but we have a manufacturing facility in Louisiana.
Okay, cool.
Northern Louisiana. In fact, the person who referred me to you, Grant Rogers with Maven Scouts.
Yeah.
He's a veteran and he's focused on helping veteran-founded companies grow and scale. Nice. And so,
is he a fan of the podcast?
I believe so. That's why he referred me to you, right?
All right.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so Louisiana, that's good. Senator Mike Rogers, is that the guy? Is he Louisiana? Is that him?
Well, there's two senators at the federal level in Louisiana. One is Cassidy, and the other one is Kennedy.
Who's Mike Rogers? Oh, he's a congressman. He's not a senator.
Mike.
He's the Speaker of the House, right?
Mike Johnson.
Mike Johnson.
Yeah.
Wait, Mike Rogers?
No, Mike Johnson.
Oh yeah. Yeah, this is great. I clearly don't know what I'm talking about. Is he Louisiana?
Yep.
Yeah, he is. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Which district are you in for your manufacturing?
We're down the road from his district, but any other day I might be able to get that answer. I don't even know what district you're in.
I just, one of the things with defense, it's so funny because it's like very congressional heavy. There's a lot of, it's just the nature of the biz. What's your split like on revenue dual, like for commercial versus defense? Or what do you think it's going to be in 5 years?
Man, that's hard to say.
It's hard to say.
I can say this. Just yesterday, we signed a contract for the total contract value is going to be north of maybe 40 to 50 million.
Nice.
But basically what it is it's a development, and it's a brand new development that in order to get power to that development, the power company would have to run the lines across an entire mountain range to get there.
Okay.
Okay. That is not cheap.
No.
At all. All right. And right now, I mean, everybody understands what's happening with the data center situation, right? Even in Northern Louisiana, where our factory is, Meta is building a new data center, and they're starving to figure out where they're going to get the power from, right?
Yeah.
People are kind of up in arms about.
You're talking about hydrogen with them? Yeah. Is it better? It seems like better than SMRs.
Well, it's not that it's better than SMRs. I mean, can you buy one of those, off the market right now?
Yeah. You can't get them.
Yeah.
20 years. There's 20 years in.
Yeah. I mean, we're having conversations with companies like Westinghouse where.
Yeah. My grandpa used to work there.
Really?
Yeah, growing up. Yeah.
Yeah.
In the nuclear.
They've been around a long time.
Yeah, Westinghouse. Yeah, well, then Northrop bought a big part of it.
Oh, really?
They bought a part of Westinghouse. Then that's how my dad ended up at Northrop Grumman, because through my grandpa. But yeah.
Pretty cool.
Yeah. So Westinghouse is still around.
Yeah.
They're still kicking.
Yeah.
They used to have the refrigerators.
Yep.
Yeah. They used to be in all kinds of stuff.
They have a 5 megawatt SMR that's coming out, which is a small unit, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the idea there is that if we were to do something with them, we could take that SMR and put it on an island,
Yeah.
and we could use that to make the hydrogen. Now,
That's
what
true.
would you do with the hydrogen?
Put it in the drones and stuff.
The drones, altitude balloons, ultralight vehicles.
Yeah.
Did you see that Hyundai just now going back a year and a half ago, I think I saw something about Hyundai having a tank that runs off of hydrogen. I think it's called the Rotem, ROTEM. And there's a new picture that just came out. I think.
Wait, the Hyundai car?
No, this is a Hyundai tank.
A Hyundai tank? That's
Yeah.
cool. Let's see it. Hyundai hydrogen tank?
Yep.
No, not the battle. Oh, wait, the tank. An actual tank.
An actual tank for war.
Oh, shit.
That's it.
Is hydrogen powered?
Yep. That's the older picture. There's a newer one.
That looks pretty sweet, though. That looks pretty sweet.
Well, they tried to go down the route of testing tanks that run off of batteries, right?
Yeah.
Hold on a minute. Let me charge up my batteries in my tank, right?
Yeah.
Terrible idea.
Terrible. Yeah, I don't like the battery powered tank, the electric tanks.
It doesn't make any sense.
No.
Not at all.
Yeah. Okay, so so for that town though, how much power do you need to supply? Like to run instead of the power lines over the mountains? Like megawatts.
It'll probably end up being around 30 megawatts when it's completely done. It'll end up being it went from like 400 homes to now it's going to be around 1,200 homes. So it's going to be a fire station and a little shopping. It's an off-grid, higher net worth kind of community, and it's actually going to be seasonal. There's going to be a lot of people that aren't there year round,
Yeah.
But it was actually a little bit less expensive to buy our system versus paying the power company to pull the power over. And by pulling the power from across the mountain range, if something snaps on that within that line anywhere, the entire community's out, right?
Yeah.
So the way we're approaching it is that we're doing it in modular systems. So we'll put in the first 275 kilowatts of power. That'll give them enough power for the first 30 homes. There'll be power for all of their work trailers and all that kind of stuff. It'll give us a chance to get really
excited up
the base level of our system installed. And then as they're building more and more units, we'll start dropping in more and more of our modular systems. Now they're not daisy chained. If you've ever something in the telecommunications world is that I forget the name of the term off of my head, but basically it's this circle. And the way this circle is set up is that if you lose power on one side of it, it'll reroute around the other side.
Okay.
Right. So it's the same principle. Okay.
It's like a ring bus.
Yes.
Something like that. As we would say in the Navy.
You're on the right track.
Yeah,
right?
Something like that. But I don't know. I was an electrical engineer, but I forget.
Well, then you would understand that we have a backup to a backup to a backup there, right?
Yeah.
So
redundancy.
Absolutely right. So, in fact, in our modular systems, while we're making hydrogen, the way it's designed is that we have all of these electrolyzers in there, and if one electrolyzer goes out, it's no big deal. All the others keep running.
Yeah.
And we could actually go in, like if you've ever been in a data center, you have what's called blades, and the server blades.
Yeah.
They're called server blades, and you can go and pop the one blade out and just put a new one in your.
Oh yeah, that reminds me. I showed the data center. Have you seen that AI data center video game? Google that. You can see this. Hold on. This is a new game that they're training. The AI made this to train humans to work on their data centers for them. You can go in and you have to repair the data center when there's problems and teach them young,
Yeah.
For our AI overlords.
Yeah, the first time I saw something
Look
like
at this shit. Yeah.
I mean, they're producing these out quite a bit. In fact, we were recognized recently through a Department of Navy report. It was the Naval Postgraduate School, the Defense Acquisition Research Group, and it was sponsored by the OSD, the Office of the Secretary of Defense. And basically, they found us. They were doing a study on how the Navy could ramp up the use of hydrogen across the fleet.
Oh yeah.
And it was primarily focused on the use of hydrogen for drones, but ship to shore power. When a ship pulls in, they either run off their own power
or shore power, usually.
right? Or they turn off the engines and they have shore power, right? Yeah. And so the report was around, a number of different things that they identified that the Navy could use hydrogen for.
Yeah.
Right. And so they found us, and they interviewed us. They interviewed the folks at the DIU and the Marines, and we were blown away. The report came out. It was a 172-page report, and NovaSpark's name was in there 111 times with a 5-page summary.
Yeah.
So we're pretty proud of
your
that.
business it seems very straightforward and good.
Yeah.
It seems very good. Are you like fundraising or self-funded, or what's the deal?
So we were self-funded. To be frank and honest with you, I'm a scrappy founder.
Yeah.
Okay.
I like that. I don't like the investors, just got to do it yourself.
Well, we were very selective even
Yeah.
on our angel investors.
Yeah.
They're mainly retired military.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, not everyone is, right? Some of we're, to your point earlier, what's the mix between military and commercial? And we'll come back to that in a few minutes.
Okay.
But so, I mean, to be frank with you, I was in the middle of looking for a new house, and I had a discussion with my family. I said, hey, you're determined to stay in the same school zone, because I have 3 kids.
I have 1.
How old?
4.
Boy or girl?
Girl.
Oh,
How many?
God
you got?
bless you, man.
What do you got?
You're in trouble.
You got boys?
I have a younger, my daughter's 9.
Yeah.
And my youngest son is 16. He's actually an inch taller than me. I'm 6'3".
Yeah.
Plays football, honor band. I'm proud of him.
Nice.
All 3 of them.
Wait, how old is he? The football?
16.
Okay. High school football?
Yep.
Nice. We're trying to take a high school football team to the state championship.
No shit.
That's an ACS side quest. We just bought like a whole town for our factory
Wow.
in Alabama. So we're
Really?
going to take that high school football team all the way. That's like a side thing we're going to do.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm going to buy them all the gym equipment,
That's cool of you.
uniform. How sweet would that be? Because defense is fine and all, but winning a state championship,
Hell yeah, it is.
that's what we want.
I
That's the
couldn't agree
ultimate
more,
game.
brother.
Business,
Absolutely.
whatever.
Yeah, Well, I mean, it's, I actually had a conversation over this last weekend with somebody about, what is the end game of NovaSpark, right?
Yeah, what is the end game?
Yeah. Of course, there's making money, supporting the military. I usually wear a coat and jacket and slacks and stuff when I'm, going to business meetings, and I have 2 pins on my lapel, and one is the fish with a cross through it, and another one is an eagle with our American flag on it, and it's God and country, right?
Yeah.
So I'm very patriotic.
Yeah.
I love the people that have served and died for us to have the freedoms we have. But I don't want to take the conversation political.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, we don't really do politics.
But anyway, the end game for us is if you think about rolling our machines out along the Gulf Coast after a hurricane.
Yeah.
Look at Katrina, Harvey.
Yeah. Do you work with FEMA then? Probably.
Not yet. We're
You
trying.
will though. Yeah, I can see that.
We're at a point now. You asked about fundraising. I know we're kind of skipping over.
No, that's how we do. We go all over the place.
Yeah,
It's
no
part
worries.
of the guests like that, or the guests, viewers or whatever.
Well, my ADD will fit in.
It's actually
fine with
perfect.
it.
That's that's how it does.
But if you think about it, like if you look at all the people that are either on some sort of breathing machine, or they have to leave their house, go to a cooling center is what they call it in the South, where you have electricity, food, all that kind of stuff, right? And if we could just provide backup power for something like that, where instead of running diesel generators, just 2-3 weeks ago, General Curtis, he used to be the head of the Louisiana Guard. He and I and Colonel Barnett, who's on our team, and another gentleman from Louisiana, Scale, Louisiana, Paul Barrio, we were interviewed by Louisiana Economic Development. It was the first time that they'd ever asked one of the portfolio companies of one of their authorized fund managers that's invested into a startup to come and talk to the board of LED. And they were fascinated with what we did or what we're doing. And so, of course, we make fuel for drones, but we also provide backup power, right? So you talk about, what the reason I brought up General Curtis is he was explaining that he was actually over the Louisiana Guard during Katrina. I mean, bodies were floating around.
Yeah, that's wild.
It was bad,
Yeah.
right? And so he was explaining that a lot of those areas along the Gulf Coast, even if you were to pre-position diesel generators and fuel, you never have enough fuel, right?
Yeah.
You always run out, and it's never reliable, right? With our machine, hell, it makes its own fuel from water in the air,
Yeah.
right? It uses wind and solar, charges. I mean,
Yeah, of course.
it's self-sustaining, right? And you could just drop it and go and not worry about it, right? So, anyway, I guess where I was going with that is that what is what's the end game? It's to save lives, whether it's in that situation or with our military. Okay, and of course, we like to make some money along the way.
Yeah,
right?
of course. Some of the like if you're like like your machine seems like you could like we could set up a house in the middle of nowhere and just run it.
Yeah. So we do have a home design, but here's the thing. If you were to buy our system for a home today, it's going to be at parity with what you're paying for a solar system. Those are not cheap.
Yeah, they're not cheap.
But
I put a
you're
solar system on my house in Alexandria, Virginia. It was like 50, 60K or something.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but it does have that same kind of lifespan, 15 to 20 years.
Yeah.
Okay. So we actually started a new service called NovaSpark as a service. We're working with JP Morgan on this right now. Basically what we're trying to do is that it's the mindset of like equipment financing, or if you were to go down and buy something and you pay a lease payment on it, it's the same principle, right? Where that lowers the barrier of entry of being able to afford our system, just like a solar system, right? And then we, wrap a service contract around it and that sort of thing. Military likes to buy their stuff and own it, but if we're talking about public sector in general, like state
finance it,
yeah. Well, they have a budget. Like recently, I met with one of the directors of forget which parish it was off the top of my head, but he had sticker shock when he asked how much our system costs. I said, "Hold on a minute now. We have a
hold on. We have a very special price for you."
Yeah. Well, he started out the conversation by saying, I hate diesel generators. This last hurricane, we had like 6 or 7 of them fail, and he has 40 fire stations and 30 fire chiefs, right? So they has a lot of responsibility on their shoulders. Okay. But he was, I didn't nudge him. He said it. He said, I freaking hate gas or diesel generators. They always fell on us. And he had already done his homework before he met us, and he understood what we're doing, and he wanted to clarify some things. But point is that in that situation, the way that their budgets are constrained, if we could come in and say, okay, chief, we'll install this next to your fire station. We guarantee you uptime. We'll remotely monitor, give you the ability to do the same thing on your handheld phone or whatever. And we'll make sure it works, even ahead of a hurricane coming in. We'll reach out, touch it, make sure it's running. If it's working well, we'll make sure that, right? And so the idea is that we can come in and do NovaSpark as a service on a multi-year contract.
Yeah.
Now we have recurring revenue. Okay. We'll make more money in the long run. It's a lower barrier entry for the customer, and it's a reliable, safe, easy to operate system. Right. And a few minutes ago, I mentioned the hydrogen safety program, and I mentioned the whole report that came out from the Department of Navy. Okay. They recognize that. So we always hear this crap about what about the Hindenburg, and I'm like, okay, well, for number one, Hindenburg had this flammable paint on it, and wasn't a good idea to, So we always have to say, no, it's very safe. It's very reliable. And so we have a hydrogen safety training program that's easy to understand, on and off, open, close, it's that simple, right?
Yep.
So we were recognized by the DoD that our hydrogen safety training program, which is wrapped around the safe production, handling, and transport of hydrogen, is very good.
Yeah.
And so we're actually digitizing that, and we're going to make that an offering where when we sell our system, then that'll come along with it.
Okay,
right?
cool.
And
what would you say are some like exogenous threats to your business?
What do you mean?
Like external threat? Like what would you say? What keeps you up
That's
at night?
a big word. I don't know
Yeah.
that word.
What keeps you up at night? I don't know the word either. I probably used it wrong, to be honest. Actually, Google exogenous. Oh, here we go. I think I might substance force factors that originate outside of like not internal problems, but like what do you think?
I learned a new word today.
External threats.
I love it.
I didn't really do good on my SAT, so that's surprising that I just pulled that one out. So like what keeps you up at night? Like what's the threats?
I'll be frank with you. It's very personal. My threat isn't necessarily on the business. It's not. It's missing a band recital or
Oh, dude, you're gonna make me feel like a horrible father right here. Shit. No, you're right though. You're right.
I'm not concerned about the business.
Yeah. It's just it's about like how much time versus like time of your life.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's real.
We'll never get these moments right. Right?
Yeah.
You know, I love that I get to come and meet you and like have this new human connection.
Yeah.
With your staff. I mean,
yeah.
You know,
great team.
Human connection is everything, right?
Yeah.
It is, in my opinion.
It is.
But with that said, I don't really see any, even if somebody comes in and copies exactly.
Does the price of energy matter? Like oil prices? Does that affect your business? Or like gas prices?
No, not really. What is positively impacting us right now is the fact that like data centers.
Yeah. Well, the demand for energy is going through the roof. So your business is like so obvious. Like we need all kinds of energy, you know,
of course.
like all the types.
Yeah.
And so yours is like a new offering that they didn't have before, basically.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, to the point, I mean, I mentioned data centers. I mean, we have so many data center opportunities in our sales funnel right now. You can't, if we only concentrate on doing that alone, that's a great business, right?
I mean, how do you prioritize? Like, I feel like you should maybe just go all in on that. You'd crush.
Whoever's writing a check, baby.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, I know. Spoken like a real entrepreneur. I agree. Like, you got to go where the business is.
Absolutely, yeah.
But I think in the data center space, I mean, it's got to be going crazy though.
Let me say this: we weren't even looking at that. Okay,
Yeah.
So I talked about the hurricanes, right?
Yep.
So we were recently approved to be on a nationwide purchasing co-op. What does that really mean? All these state level agencies from the state to the county, the parishes in Louisiana, all the way down to the city level, they all buy off of something called a purchasing co-op, right?
Oh, interesting.
And this purchasing co-op, they could buy anything from pencils to power. Okay. And we're the only one on the list. We didn't think about this. They told us, they're like, you're the only one on the list that makes power out of water. And so
it's a good place to be.
Yeah. And so what we've done is we're through our fundraising and building the team and hiring people and on the sales side.
Yeah.
Just on that one, within our sales funnel, there's different things like backup power for critical infrastructure. In this case, if we only concentrated on, let's say from Brownsville around to Florida and up the eastern seaboard, those areas alone is a great business for us, right?
Yeah.
I mean, think about all the power outages, the hurricanes, the flooding. Okay.
For sure.
I mean, that's alone is a good line of business for us, right? So my point there is that we're going after the backup power for critical infrastructure. Okay. Well, that same critical infrastructure relies on data centers in a lot of cases, right? Now you're talking about AI, data centers, that's a different story, right?
Yeah.
So we're focused on that market and of course on the military market, right? So with the military market, we're not really going down the path of doing base power. We could, right? And again, if they write us a check, we'll do it, right?
Yeah.
But what we're really focused on there with the military is the remote operations, forward operating bases.
Yeah.
Look what's happening in South America right now, with the current administration, or in the Indo-Pacific. It's like playing, what's that game that you hit with a little squirrel pops up?
Oh yeah.
Whack-a-mole.
Yeah. I love that game.
Yeah. So
yeah. I do.
But
I like carnival games in general.
Oh yeah.
I love them. Yeah, they're so fun.
Absolutely. We're all kids at heart.
Yeah,
right?
I know. Okay, so whack-a-mole.
Yeah. So the point is that there's so many opportunities in the market. It's like whack-a-mole, right? So the ones that we can hit right now as a young company, we're going to hit them.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's now we could say, okay, we're very focused. We're only going to do this one single thing, right? But because our system is so robust,
it's pretty horizontal. It's a horizontal play.
Now we can, we're working through the details of, distributor agreements and, authorized
resellers.
Yeah. Well, distributors, right?
Distributors. Yeah.
Yeah. That sort of thing. And so we see, I was just having a conversation again over this last weekend about with somebody about, I said, it'll be $1 billion company. It's
for sure,
without a doubt, right? And he's like, Rick, no, it's going to be multi-billions of dollars, right?
So
and I'm a humble guy. I don't try to overstate anything.
It's going to be, I believe.
Yeah,
$1 billion is not cool anymore. It's got to be worth like 10 at least. You know, inflation. $1 billion's like, it's got to be big. It's inflation. Yeah. So wait, how big is the team now then?
We only have full-time, maybe 7 people at this point.
Lean and mean though.
Yeah.
Are you do you have sales inside sales people? Or you?
It's me and one other person on the team so far.
Nice.
Okay.
How do you do
but in a small company, everybody's
everyone's a
salesperson.
salesperson.
Yeah.
How do you do the commissions? I got to lower my commissions next year. Ours are too high. Our salespeople are making too much money this year.
So what we've actually done is we because what we're doing is we're doing success fee agreements with certain people. I mentioned General Curtis earlier. He's been amazing, and he brought in one of his friends. He's actually invested in us now.
Cool.
One of his business partners, Jennifer Mume, she's still active in the Guard. She loves what we're doing. But people like that are very well connected, and they understand what we're doing, the impact that we have or could have on these different areas where they have friends. So I mentioned 29 Palms, Caterpillar.
Yep.
Okay, they're coming out this next week to 29 Palms, but the following week, we're actually going out back to Oahu to meet with a gentleman who's at the SES level. So
you're traveling a lot.
That was my point about
the kids.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. I was coming back to that.
Yeah.
Dude, it is brutal. The travel on like startup founders and traveling with family. It's tough.
Yeah.
That's like, people don't talk about this enough, but it's like, it's really tough.
Yeah.
I want to do like a public service announcement.
I mean, and to be frank and honest with you, I mean,
Yeah.
I have 2 other meetings after this today. Since I knew I was coming to Austin, I stacked those meetings.
You got to try to be as efficient as possible with it.
But I'll be home tonight.
Okay, yeah, nice.
I mean, I could stay the night here, get a hotel, go have a nice dinner.
Yeah.
What's
Get
the point?
back. Yeah, what's the point? Get back.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Do you fly back or drive?
I just drive.
Yeah.
It's like 2 hours.
That's not bad. Yeah. I drive to see my brother. Yeah, it's not too far.
Yeah. If I had to go to Dallas, San Antonio, Northern Louisiana, Florida, wherever, it depends. If it's over 5 hours, I'll think about it. I'll factor in, the
time to TSA.
rental car, whatever.
You saw the TSA is down right now.
Yeah.
I'm afraid to go to the airport. I have to fly to DC tomorrow night. So
yeah, one of my co-founders is in DC right now.
And the Austin airport's terrible because it's so packed because it's too small for the city.
Yeah,
they forgot to expand it.
Yeah.
That's what the mayor said. He was like, we forgot to expand it. So you got this huge ass city with this small airport.
Is there enough land that you can?
They're doing it now. They're building it now. They're expanding now, but they're like a couple years late on it. I think it's like, I don't know. I spend a lot of time in the Austin airport, and so it's just like packed.
Well, that's true for everything around Austin, though, right? I mean, look at traffic on I-35 or around the loop, or
it's a city that's growing.
Absolutely,
it's incredible. I like it here. It's fun.
Yeah.
Texas is fun.
We love it. We have some friends actually that recently moved back from California. My wife and I moved out there for about 10 years. Actually, before we even married, we moved out there. I was like, "Hey, honey, I got a." Wasn't calling her honey then. But I saw it was like our third date, and I said, "Hey, look, this is fun. I love you. I'm like already in love with you. Almost literally.
Love at first sight."
And I was like, "Hey, I got something to tell you. I got a job offer to go to California." At the time, she worked at Sephora. And I thought she was going to say, "Okay, all right, well, nice knowing you." She's like, "Well, maybe I can get transferred out there. I'll come with you."
Nice.
23 years later, 3 kids. Anyway,
that's a cute story.
Yeah.
Sephora is good. I like Sephora. We did a game the other day with my girlfriend in Sephora, trying to guess how much it cost. She pulled out a bunch of items, and I had to guess. I'm really good at that. Just so you guys know. Like I know the price of things. That's one of my party tricks. Yeah. Tell me a market cap of a company, I probably know it. Yeah, if you just name a company, go name a company.
Entrepreneurial.
60 billion. I know all the market cap. That was too easy. That was layup. That's the layup. Anduril.
Have they scaled any of that stuff yet at Anduril?
I don't think so. No.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they're working on it.
I'm still trying to get in front of.
They're working on it.
What's his name?
Palmer.
Yeah, Lucky.
Yeah, our boy.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's cosplaying or something there right now.
Yeah. I'm sure. I'm most assured that if I had 3 minutes with him, he'd want to work with us.
Yeah, this is the cosplay. He posted this on his Twitter the other day.
Huh.
You ever seen him in this?
No.
No. I mean, I look at this picture a lot. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty funny. He's a good marketer.
Yeah, for sure.
I had something. Oh, I wanted to talk about the Sam Altman energy comment. That was funny. You know what I'm talking about? The 20 years. He's our energy expert here, so this is pretty funny. What do you think of this quote? People talk about how much energy it takes to train an AI model, but it also takes a lot of energy to train a human. It takes 20 years of life in the food you eat. I mean, I'm not sure if that's necessarily a good point, but it's pretty funny. It's like some real Silicon Valley shit. He's basically being like, no, don't worry, investors. My energy costs aren't high. Think about the cost to train a human.
I always get Sam Alton mixed up with that guy that got arrested for money laundering or something.
Oh, SBF? No. Was it SBF? You mean the FTX guy?
I think, yeah.
Sam Bankman-Fried?
Yeah.
This guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a great Magic
Sorry,
the
Mr.
Gathering
Allman.
player. You got mixed up with this
Didn't mean to
guy.
offend you.
This guy actually, honestly, got really fucked with the Anthropic thing, right? He invested in Anthropic at like, what was the investment at? 500 million he put in. He got 8% of Anthropic. Like, and then they didn't get to realize these gains because he went to jail, and they liquidated FTX. But think how much this would be worth.
Remind me, what is this company?
So this is so Sam Bankman-Fried was did FTX, which is a crypto exchange.
Absolutely.
And he was making investments through Alameda Capital, his VC. He had this fucking VC or whatever. And he put in a huge amount of money into Anthropic, which would be worth 183. How much would it be worth now? It'd be worth like a lot of money, like billions, tens of billions, hundreds of. And they didn't get to, that would have covered all of their shady shit and then more. Like, it was the greatest investment ever, basically. And they never got to realize the gains because they had to liquidate everything because of the fraud. And really tragic. The guy had it, really. I mean, let's be real.
So sad.
Insane, though. Honestly, the whole thing's crazy. That's a crazy story. There's so much of that's in the Silicon Valley. Like, so much, like.
Go back to the quote, if you don't mind.
Yeah. Back to let's go back to our Altman quote. Yeah. What's your take?
Well, I mean, the first thing that kind of, ran from my mind there is that, I had the chance I mentioned earlier in the conversation. I worked with an AI machine learning India company, and we had over 100 data scientists. And this is going back 9 years ago. They're pretty smart, but the idea there is that they sit there and it's like a sweatshop, right?
Yeah.
And they build these algorithms, and it takes a lot of mental energy and physical energy. And I see his point, because once the algorithm's built, like I was talking about the remote monitoring for an oil well. Well, today they have predictive maintenance and prescriptive maintenance, right? So where it's learning, and you don't have to, I had a guy, it was actually the guy from Apache, the founder. He said, I love that this can do this, and you are saving me a bunch of money, but I have to move, Ron over to this other position now, I'm just, he didn't literally say that, but you can shift over and learn some, new tech or whatever, right? A new job. But I don't know. I guess my whole point, I'm kind of going off the rails
That's
here,
fine.
is that once you have it built and it's producing and it's doing what you want it to do, then you can either continuous improvement or you can move on to do something else, right? You can make your business more efficient or whatever it may be, right? But I get his point. I mean, you get born, you sleep, you grow up, you work, you watch Wheel of Fortune, you go to bed, you wake up, do it all over again,
exactly,
right?
Well, this actually said, this is interesting. Ashok pulled up 200 megawatts by adulthood. Megawatt hours. That's pretty funny. All right. I mean, I think it's interesting. I think he's pretty funny. I had another one. Oh, what do you think of base power? With Michael Dell kid. This company, do that one?
So the battery company?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, look, battery technologies are continuously improving. We're working with, just signed a partnership agreement with a company. They make supercapacitors, right? With graphene.
Oh, cool.
Rapidly charges, and it doesn't, release the energy fast, right? So it's perfect for, now they're very heavy, right? So
this is a use case for graphene.
Uh-huh.
I think they've been looking for that for 20 years, right? Yeah. But I think this could be it. Maybe. I don't know.
I mean, it's one of them.
But graphene's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's always been hyped in science.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah.
So, I mean, not that the audience is not under NDA. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, the audience, they get the deep cuts here. If they listen this far into the podcast, which a lot of them do, we actually have 55-minute engagement.
Gotcha.
Like that's pretty crazy for a podcast.
Well, as far as the graphene's concerned, when you're producing hydrogen, there's an efficiency rating, right? So it always depends. My CTO always said, well, it depends,
Yeah.
There's all these variables. Okay, well, what's the bottom line, right? Love you, Tom.
Yeah.
Anyway,
variables.
But where I was going with that is that we found a way that actually we could use graphene in what's called within the electrolyzer itself, where we can coat the inside of the membrane, and it actually increases the efficiency of how to make hydrogen. It increases it all the way up to like 95%, depending.
Yeah.
It depends, right?
Yeah.
But it's way up, right? Versus like 60-70% in some cases. But yeah, your point. Yeah, they're trying to figure out what to do with graphene for.
Yeah. Wait, go to the Base Power website. There's a funny graphic on this that I don't really get this company. Hold on, scroll down. I want to show he's the energy guy. We got to ask our energy guy here. Just scroll down more. There's like a picture. Oh wait, here, this. I think it's this. Beam earns from the grid, not you. Base earns from the grid. Demand spikes. Your battery sends power out, lowering rating. I don't really get this. So like they basically are charging the grid from this battery. That's what they're saying. They're like basically saying that like when we're not using full load, we're like sending the power back, but then I don't have to just recharge it again. Like I don't get it.
Are they charging the battery from the grid?
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, that's simple. I get it.
And then they're putting it back into the grid too.
Yeah. So if let me put it like this. There's something called peak shaving. Okay.
Yeah.
What peak shaving is that I just met some guys at a manufacturing company down in Houma, Louisiana. And they have a power bill every month that's somewhere between 25 to 30,000. Okay?
Yeah.
And so that's a lot of money to be, paying for power, but I'm sorry, it's between 30 and 40,000.
Okay.
As much it was. Okay. So you can use the grid to charge up the battery banks, okay, during the peak times of the day. I'm sorry, I've got this backwards.
During the off-peak.
You do it during the off-peak periods, and then you could use that power during the peak periods of the day, disconnect from the grid, and you're theoretically paying less for power, right? The reason this all came up is because with our machine, you can put a little wind and
this is
solar.
because the power companies prefer to have a more stable load, a more constant load. That's the idea behind Base then? Because then when it's not peak, usually they would burn less fuel.
So in our case, what we were discussing is that we can use wind and solar, or we could pull power from the grid during the off period times of the day and at night, and we could charge the battery banks. When I say the battery banks, it's the hydrogen tanks,
of course.
the batteries, the whole thing, right?
But is the advantage of doing it off peak just because they have capacity then?
Well, there's capacity, but it's in that case, if the customer might have the way they pay their bill is that if they're putting more strain on the grid, they'll get these peak charges, right? So they pay, it may be, I don't know, let's say 15 cents a kilowatt, typically versus the peak demand where it could be, say 30 cents or 35% or 35 cents. You get the point, right?
Yeah, I get the point. Yeah.
But with peak shaving, I think that's what they're doing.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it makes sense. All right. Learn something new. Learn something new.
Peak shaving is the cutting of energy demand peaks, flattening that temporary demand. Yeah.
Yeah, they want to get rid of the peaks and the troughs. The troughs. How do you say that word? Troughs. Whatever. Exogenous threats.
We're not actually out trying to sell NovaSpark on being a peak shaving company.
Yeah.
What we're doing is that for that company, when they lose power and they have all this very expensive machinery and they're doing some very time sensitive manufacturing, and if the power suddenly goes out, they're fucked, right?
Yeah.
And so you could use our system to be sitting there making the backup power. In this case, let's say 3 days of backup power or a week's worth of backup power. And the difference between a week and 3 days and say a week is that you just put in more storage. That's it. The system's already there making
Yeah.
the hydrogen and charging the batteries. The
It's more
additional storage
Yep.
is what gives you the longer run time, right?
Makes sense. Yeah.
So anyway, what we were talking about there is that we put our system in for the backup power, but during the off period, during the peak times of the day, they could just have the switch gear, the hybrid inverters, switch it over to our system, and they could run it for, let's say, even 3 to 5 hours a day. They will lower their bill, right? And then during the off-peak times of the day, it recharges the batteries.
Yeah.
Does that, if that makes
Yeah, it
sense?
makes sense.
Okay.
So what's next for NovaSpark? You got any hiring? Any announcements for the fan base?
We're moving in that direction. We just turned in a package to the state of Louisiana. We're looking at hiring as many as 200 people over the next 3 years.
Oh wow.
And as many as 300.
Are those supposed to building, manufacturing and stuff?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
We're gonna have we have our facility up in northern Louisiana, and then we're looking at an 11-acre facility in Houma, Louisiana, of all places. But it's on an island, literally on an island. Okay, and there's a dock, and the rumors is that Caterpillar's going to have a facility, across the way, about a quarter mile down.
Yeah.
So they have fuel cells and engines that run off hydrogen. So you've heard of Saronic, I'm sure.
Yeah,
right?
of course. They're right here.
Yeah. Well, they've just they took over an entire shipyard down where we're at.
Yeah.
And they're going to put like 300 million into that area, right? So love those guys.
Yeah.
Creating jobs,
crushing it.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's where we see we're going to be at. That's what's on our radar. Okay.
Yeah.
Beyond that, we've got some opportunities where some folks are asking us about, well, hey, what do you think about South America? And I'm like, hell no, but there's some interesting conversations about Costa Rica. And there's a lot of companies, big companies down there, US based companies in Costa Rica. Right. And
you sound you're at that point of the startup where you have to say no to stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the hardest part, but it's
all the time.
It's selection, that it's deciding what to do.
Yeah.
It's pretty tough. Yeah.
Yeah. So the short answer is that we're looking to scale in short order. Okay. I think that with, I've told you about our NovaSpark as a service, working with entities like JP Morgan or, companies like Caterpillar has their own equipment financing programs, or, some of the other investors. I mean, they're in it not just for making money. Sometimes it's about the value of what we're able to, in this case, let's say a company like a Caterpillar.
Yeah.
If we can enable them to sell more equipment and provide more services, and everybody there's a lot of companies that had a big strategy around hydrogen, and it kind of died down after the change of administration because the subsidies went away, and we've never have built our company on subsidies.
It's actually a really good situation for you.
Yeah.
Because now the subsidies go away, the competition goes away, and so it leaves a market gap.
I mean, the likes of Lockheed or Air Liquide and Air Products and Linde and those, they're never going to go away, right?
Yeah.
They've got more money than God, whatever, as some people like to say. But yeah, in the short term.
But not more than Larry Ellison, as they say.
Yeah,
That's the Silicon Valley line.
Yeah.
Well, Rick, I appreciate you coming on, man. It was so much fun. Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah.
Thanks for the time.